Here's what's on this episode of Formula World. As always, you can find timestamps for these stories in the description or as a pinned comment. First up on Formula World, Raikkonen's last season. Ferrari president Sergio Marchionne has delivered a message about Kimi Raikkonen, giving the Finn some of the highest praise one could receive, but it came with a caveat. Marchionne suggested that if Raikkonen fails to find form in 2018, that he will be replaced by a younger driver. My personal opinion is that if we find the right key, Raikkonen drives like a god, but we need to find it. When things go right, it's a pleasure seeing him drive. He has an incredible coldness. Otherwise, in other moments, it seems like he takes a break. Probably this is the last season to find the right key, and we must do it. I think that it would be a shame if he would leave Formula One without showing his real potential. I think that if we cannot find the right key for Raikkonen, the choice will fall on a young driver. This season has seen many people criticise Raikkonen, but the Ferrari driver has stood his ground in typical blunt fashion when addressing suggestions that he's beyond his prime. Obviously, I am here to try to win races and win championships. I wouldn't be here or next year on the circuit if I didn't have the hunger to win. I enjoy racing. I wouldn't be shy to say it's the only reason. I want to be in F1. So long as that hunger is there, it's the reason why I'll give my best. Red Bull 2018 favourites. Red Bull started the 2017 season on the back foot after they struggled with correlation issues that led to their car not performing how they expected on track. But their development game allowed them to close the deficit to Ferrari and Mercedes to the point where Max Verstappen was able to win 2 races at the back end of the season on merit. And it is the belief of Red Bull driver Daniel Ricciardo that given their ability to develop their car, that if they were to start from a better level, that they would be favourites in the 2018 title fight. We just started 2017 off on the wrong foot, but the rate of development has been amazing, so I'm hoping if we can start on the right foot in 2018, you would argue we would be the favourites. If we started with Mercedes and Ferrari levels of performance, our development is pretty strong. At the start of the year, the chassis wasn't where it needed to be. Now our chassis has improved a lot. It's back to the scenario where it's more engine than chassis at the moment. Honda convinced Verstappen to stay at Red Bull. Max Verstappen recently signed with Red Bull on a contract that will see him race for them until the end of 2020. And head of driver development Helmut Marko has come out saying that it was a visit to the Honda factory that sealed the deal. We simply explained to Max what our plans for the future are. We have guaranteed him that we will have the top people all under contract and that we have an alternative option with regards to our engine. We flew to Honda's headquarters in Sakura where they have an incredible factory and all this convinced him. Max also took advantage of the situation and negotiated a salary increase. Even if he is far from being in the league of Hamilton and Vettel in terms of salary, if he wins F1 World Championships, then he can rise to those salary levels. We negotiated a relatively low basic salary, but a strong bonus system, per point, per win, per World Championship title. If he meets those, then the cash register will start ringing. Vandoorne very close to Alonso. Stoffel Vandoorne has had a mixed rookie season, but his boss at McLaren, Zak Brown, has sung his praise, especially when taking into consideration all the circumstances. It was a very difficult start for him with our reliability issues. He's a rookie. He was going to a lot of tracks for the first time. Fernando has the benefit of 15 or 16 years of being in Formula One. If you look at the pressure and circumstances, his attitude was great, his speed is getting better and better, he's very close to Fernando now. They've not always had the same equipment. There were some races where the gap may have looked larger than they were, but that was a car gap more than a driver gap, so I'm very happy with him. F1 is not a sport. Former F1 driver turned IndyCar driver Max Chilton has criticised F1 for there being too much of a gap between the top and bottom teams and compared it to IndyCar, then went as far as saying as F1 is not a sport. The problem Formula One has got at the moment is there is a 4-second gap between the lead car and the back car, and that's not really sport. Sport should pretty much be a level playing field or as close to as possible. Motorsport is never going to be like that. It's impossible. But IndyCar next year is going to be as near a one-make series than they have done. Everyone has the same aero kit, and there is very little difference between the engines, and the racing should be even closer next year. Unlimited DRS? The new regulations that saw bigger, faster cars, and cars that also produce more dirty air, has led to less overtaking numbers than we have seen in recent years. And there have been ideas thrown around on how to combat this new issue of it being difficult to follow a car closely. Ferrari team principal Maurizio Arrivabene offered one solution: free use of DRS. What could we do? For example, we could change how often drivers can use DRS. Why does a driver have to wait to use it only in certain sectors of a lap? Allow drivers to use DRS at all times. That would also highlight his talent and courage. We have to discuss things like that, not grid girls. And speaking of grid girls, Formula World fans react. In the last episode of Formula World, I asked whether or not you think F1 should keep grid girls. Here's what you all had to say. A whopping 86% of you voted yes to keeping grid girls, and only 4% of you voted no. But there was 10% of you that didn't care either way. Albert feels like the question should be put to the girls. Here's what he had to say. Ask the grid girls how they feel about it. If they are fine with it, I don't see any reason to get rid of that tradition. But I'm not really bothered about this anyway. And CFAX had this to say. 2 words, grid boys. And for you fans out there with a good memory, you will remember that grid boys have been used in F1 before. Which team is the favourite for the 2018 title? Click the card in the top right hand corner to vote for who you think is the favourite. And be sure to let me know in the comments what you think. And if you liked this video, feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos for all the latest in the world of Formula 1.